And President Bola Tinubu's United States lawyer, Wole Afolabi, says presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar, is wasting his time over the academic record released by Chicago State University. Reacting to the decision of Mr. Atiku and his legal team to present President Tinubu's academic records at the Supreme Court, Afolabi said the document cannot help their case. He said Atiku is just chasing shadows as he cannot prove forgery allegations against President Tinubu, who has nothing to hide about his academic record.
So it is just a question of chasing shadows. I mean, honestly, you are alleging forgery. How do you prove forgery? You must plead forgery and you must plead particulars of forgery. You have to plead particulars of forgery. And you have to prove it. So how do you in your petition, there was not a single mention of CSU, not a single mention of CSU in the petition. You can't do anything with this. That is on the merit. The door is shut permanently. It's over with. You can't bring it in. You cannot. Once you fail to bring it in, I mean, I'm talking about the stricter provisions of the Electoral Act now. Once you fail to get it in, at the time you commenced your action, within 21 days of the occurrence of action.
And for more discussion on the former Vice President's address, I'm joined on the news by former Chairman, Section of Public Interest and Development Law, SPIDEL, in Nigerian Bar Association, Monday Ubani. Mr. Ubani, thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 10. What do you think the former Vice President is seeking to achieve with his latest address?
Yeah, thank you very much. Even though I'm not part of his legal team, I think there is a particular section in our constitution under which a president who has been elected can be disqualified. That section specifically, I think, is section 137 J, paragraph J of the constitution that says, if it is found out that a candidate has presented what we call forged document to INEC, it can be a ground of disqualification. But the issue is that you have to prove that the document that you allege is forged is actually forged. And there are two ways of forging a document. It's either you forged an original document, you fake an original document, or you make a entirely new document that has no genuineness in it, that is completely fake. And in the first one I mentioned, you have to present the original that was forged, that looked like the original. Then you present the one that is fake, side by side. That is how you can be able to show that there is a forgery on the side of the document. Now, what is going on presently is that Atiku's matter has been concluded at the Court of Appeal, the tribunal, or they call it court, and judgment given. Now, Atiku sought for fresh evidence on his allegation of forgery, from the university that was attended by the president, and insisted that records of his academic be produced and released, which the court ordered should be. And 2 days ago, those records were released. Now, first and foremost, the first hurdle is admissibility of that fresh documentary evidence. He has to cross it. He has to come by way of seeking leave through an application. Of course, it will be opposed. The Supreme Court looks at both affidavit and counter affidavit of both parties and agree. If he wants to agree with Atiku, he exercises discretion in favor of Atiku. It's a discretionary power that the Supreme Court has to exercise with the application that will be brought before it. And the law is that discretion must be exercised judicially and judiciously and reasonably too. When I mean judicially, it means that it must be in accordance with law. When I say judiciously, it must be with fairness and equity in mind, and then reasonably. So if the Supreme Court does the exercise of discretion, whether in favor or against, if it is against, of course, that ends the matter. But if it is in favor, then the legal team has to now tell the court what they want to achieve by the presentation of the new records or new documentary evidence they have just procured from the university. So from there, the Supreme Court will be in a position to actually know whether they have complied with all the necessary requirements for them to disqualify the president. It's a very tenuous and very, very grave responsibility. The onus still lies on the appellant to prove forgery, and it's not on balance of probability. It's clearly issue of proof beyond reasonable doubt because you have entered into the realm of criminal crime.
Based on the things you followed in recent days, particularly with the documents Atiku's lawyers got from CSU, would you say there is any substance to what they are alleging?
No, it's a court that have to examine all that. Most of the things you read on social media, most of the times are not actually correct. So it is what they will present before the Supreme Court that will determine the Supreme Court to take a very, very, what they call considered decision. And that decision will be based upon law. Most times you see a lot of sentiment, both for and against, even when there is substance. So the issue is, what are the facts? What do they want to achieve? Have they been able to establish, would they be able to establish forgery? Because what will actually disqualify the president at this point is if it is found out that the document he presented to INEC is purely forged document. And the best evidence can only come from the university, can't come from any other person. There was a similar case that happened 2 or 3 years ago, and it came from Benue. I think Benue or Plateau, where a young man claimed to have attended University of Lagos State University, claimed to have a degree, claimed to have a master's, claimed to have NYSC. It was found out through evidence that was given by that university that he was never a student of that university. But this particular case is different from that of President Bola Tinubu, who was alleged to have been a student, and the university acknowledged the fact that he was their student. So a lot of the facts determine the case. So you may not use that particular case in order to actually now say this is what will be the position of the court and all that. And that's why I say every case is determined by the facts, that are presented before the court. So I cannot stay here now and make a pronouncement because this matter is clearly still before the realm of the Supreme Court that has the final say on the pronouncement.
Legal practitioner Ubani, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.